Hello, Problematic Boy here. Uh, this is gonna be on our new YouTube channel. This is gonna be our first video on the new YouTube channel. There is another Problematic Boy YouTube channel that's somehow unlinked from my personal, and I can't access it anymore. So I guess that's just gone. But if you don't sub to that one, sub to this one if you like it. This video is going to be essentially a summary or kind of a build experiment summary video. Uh, First, I'll explain what we did on stream. We leveled and mapped and tried to take as far as we could a Molten Strike Berserker. Um, and SSF software as far as we could. Try to mimic a starter scenario. Molten Strike Berserker. So why would I do this to myself? So I was looking for inspiration on YouTube, and I saw a creator. I don't know who they are. I think they're like anonymous or whatever. But they have an external site where you have to pay money for like to remove ads and all that stuff. So this is like a premium build, right? This is a build that you could potentially pay for. Obviously, accessing it and all the information about it is free, but that's a side note. So I saw it starter viable, SSF viable, Molten Strike Berserker. That was their guide, and I said that can't be good, and I wanted to just follow how they did it. Let's open up the tree so I can talk about the changes that I made to the tree. Things that they did not do or did not have for whatever reason. First off, we'll talk about the ascendancy nodes since they're right here. I went Defy Pain. Defy Pain is really good. They went this crit node. I don't know why. This build already with Defy Pain dies way too much. That's just the way it is. You get into the yellow maps and you get two damage mods on there, you can't do it. If it's attack speed with like Fizz's Lightning, you're gonna randomly die. Blue Harvest destroy you. We don't have a belt on, but we were sitting at like 4.1k life or something like that. It wasn't looking good. So not going to 5 pain, I can't imagine how much you would die with this build. Second off, I don't know why I did this. In the guide even, it goes this way. So you would always go this way, right? What else did we change? Here's the big change. In their guide, they never went Tribal Fury, and they did not have Influence or Hunter gloves or Strike gloves of any kind. So they were just main linking Ancestral Call the entire time. This is really bad. You need to go Tribal Fury until you... And I think even with Tribal Fury and then getting an additional strike, the clear feels really nice. So you definitely want to go Tribal Fury, and then if the clear feels fine to you, you can unspec it once you get gloves. What else did they do that was weird? They didn't take any defensive nodes at all. So they didn't fill out this leech, which obviously filling out the leech makes sense because we took Defy Pain. They didn't go Axis, so they didn't have Onslaught. They didn't take Adamant, which I took Adamant to try to survive, and our next goal is to get Soul Steel to survive. That's about it. Their gearing choices was a little weird. It was an SSF viable starter, but they were using a Savior and a Foil. Obviously, if you want to SSF or start this, and I'll talk about my conclusions in a little bit on if it's even possible to do this. Spoiler for SSF, it kind of isn't, but for trade, I think you can do this if you're in softcore trade. I think it's possible. You want to be using a two-handed axe. This axe is pretty bad, but it was farming T10s pretty good with just a few deaths. Obviously, you're going to die every now and then with this, but other than that, it did what it needed to do. Our other gear is pretty shit. I was just in the process of getting spell suppression on our stuff. So we have some spell suppression on gloves, on our chest. Don't worry about these. They were shit anyway. The belt and that. I think I had a Stygian Vice with like 50 crafted life on it. And then a ring that had crafted life on it. We have this stupid amulet that's literally just for damage, and it's not even that good. But it was doing tier 10s with some deaths, right? And some content that was really hard, like Harvest and some expeditions. You just couldn't do them, or they would just guarantee deaths. Um, so definitely not hardcore at all viable. Um, so
I cannot do this yet.
the other thing I changed was some skills, right? So in the guide, I'm not gonna say who made the guide or whatever, but in the guide they were said to use Anger, Precision, Herald of Ash, and they were using Steel Skin instead of Molten Shell. That's really bad. That's terrible, actually. You definitely want to be using Determination on this build. You want to be using Defiance Banner. Precision you need for the accuracy, unless you don't, I guess, but the crit chance is nice too. And Herald of Ash just makes the clear feel so much nicer. So much nicer. Um, it also helps a lot with Defy Pain using Determination. Your Molten Shell can actually get up to like 8,000 if you're on like 6 Defy Pain stacks. And we don't even have that much, like we're not like super armor stacking right now. Our gear is like pretty bad. We were getting like a 9,000 Molten Shell. Right now it's like a 2,000, but with our flask up and everything, our Granite Flask, you're getting like a 9,000 Molten Shell with this build, which is really good for 4 seconds. I'm gonna drink some water here. So what are my conclusions about this build? I'm not going to show any gameplay or anything. You can just sort of, I guess, fucking take my word for it. If you don't, you don't have to. Um, so as an SSF starter, this build just can't do it. You basically can reach and farm yellow maps and maybe do some early red maps, like tier 11, tier 12s, and then you're going to be looking at, I need an Omniscience, I need that Savior, I need that foil. I'm sure the build works fine with the Savior and foil, but as an SSF starter, you're not going to be able to get those with this build. Especially if you make the right adjustments and you go a two-handed axe and you're like, okay, I can do these yellow maps. You're not going to be able to break into the reds or the late reds, or I'm not even sure if you can do like tier 13s or tier 14s. I didn't try. I gave up on the build. It dies too much. It just dies way too fucking much. Even if I change the tree to start on this side, and the tree is pretty tight here. Like you can get life here. I guess you can get life in Juggernaut, but then you have to go all the way over here for lethality. The tree is just not very good, and that's not really the fault of the person who made the tree or the adjustments I made to the tree. I think that the problem is that in the current way Path of Exile is, you just can't get this build to be tanky enough. Um, Now on trade, SC trade, let's talk SC trade. I think you can do this build. I think you can, because it can farm yellow maps. You can get this build without any cost, which is self-crafted gear, into yellow maps, and farm them forever if you want, and get currency. I think that's a totally viable strategy. Obviously, there's a little bit of hiccups. You're going to die to some blue harvests. It's going to happen. You're going to die to some expeditions if you do too many mods on them. It's going to happen. If they're too tanky or too much damage on them, you're just going to die to the expedition. So you have to be a little bit careful with this build. And sometimes just while randomly mapping or on a wrong map boss, I should say while randomly mapping, you're relatively safe. You have Fortify, you have the Defy Pain. It actually is pretty safe while mapping, but the wrong map boss can kill you with like just a few bad mods, and that's not really a good sign. But I'm sure you could farm in yellow maps and just get an Omniscience. That's like a great way to go. Get Omniscience, get some Reigns. You can farm currency forever in yellow maps and trade, and it really wouldn't be a problem. So if you wanted to start this in a trade scenario, it's actually viable, but I would not do it the way the guide says. Let's just say that. I think I think if you want to get the Savior and you want to get a 400 PDPS foil, the build's going to work great, but you still got to run that Determination. You're still going to have to run Defiance Banner. You're still going to go Defy Pain. You're never not going to go Defy Pain, especially as your gear gets better. Defy Pain gets better, and that crit node gets a lot worse. It gets really bad. If you have a lot of crit on your weapon and crit multi on your weapon, then that node is only giving you like added physical damage, and it's really shit. Don't go it. Go Defy Pain. Defy Pain feels so nice. It makes your mapping feel so smooth. Other than that, Molten Strike as an SSF, I'm mostly an SSFSC player, so I wanted to test it for that. It does not do it. That's no big surprise. The guide makes a lot of weird decisions. I probably would avoid I'm not going to say who they are, but I would avoid guides that aren't running things like determination or grace. You got to be at least running one of them, and you got to be having some kind of defensive mechanic. This guy didn't really have any, and he didn't really have any life. This is just the way the tree works. I'll be on for a video. Currently, we're testing on my Twitch, which is Problematic Boy. We are testing Spark Ignite. It's going a lot better than this. I'm imagining I'm gonna go to yellow maps today. Uh, but thanks for watching our little Molten Strike experiment that I did for fun, just for fun. And I'll have more content in the future, especially leading up to 318. And the fact there's no balance changes, we wanted to try a lot of SSFSC starters, measure them, especially weird ones or ones that seem suspect to me. I have a lot of time, so I'm just gonna play them and see if they work. All right, okay, bye bye. See you later.